She is currently a Miller Knoll rep, but also has a side hustle that we really want to spotlight. And we're excited to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Take it off.
Hi. How are you all doing here today? Good. Like this cozy section in the front here. I'm so happy to be here at Network Next Gen. Thank you, team, for having me today. And being in Chicago is fabulous. So we're going to get started. Today I'm going to take you from the sidelines to a signature brand and help you stand out in design, because we are all interior designers in here, I'm pretty sure. But I'm going to help you create strong associations, and this is brought to you by Brand Ed, The Road to Influence. It's going to take a psychology-backed branding approach so that you can create impact and authenticity in your market and in your community. Maybe you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, or you're not sure where to start and you need a roadmap of how to get from point A to point B. Maybe you have a side hustle that you think about in the back of your head, or you're not quite sure because there's so much conflicting advice out there, especially online. So I'm going to take you step by step if you're looking to build a life filled with independence, connections, passion, and balance. You are going to be in the right place. So I'm going to call out a couple things, and if it resonates with you, feel free to raise your hand. Do you feel like you are a multifaceted person? Do you feel like you have a side hustle or a side passion outside of interior design that you have told someone about, or maybe you haven't told someone about yet, and you really want to dive into further? And if you're feeling like you're wearing multiple different hats or different shoes and you're showing up like a dual agent at work versus on the side, maybe that resonates with you as well. Well, that's me. This is my side hustle. My name's Lily Grace York, and this is sponsored by my side brand, Report Agency, where I help brands connect and convert online and in person. So this is my journey, and I think all of us have an origin story of where we fell in love with design and creating beautiful spaces. And for me, it was HGTV, because I grew up in small town New Hampshire, and that was the first instance of seeing a space be transformed in a creative way. Obviously, we know HGTV is not quite what we do, but that was my first instance of seeing what was there. And when HGTV magazine came out when I was 13, I wrote into them, and I was like, I love everything about this. I'm 13 years old, I'm a designer, I'm gonna become a designer, and they put me in their magazine as their biggest little fan. From there, I started to network with my friends and family. I was like, I'm an interior designer, and I have a business card, and hire me to create your space and transform it. So I started to network and started to pitch myself and try different experimentations to see what really worked. And then I decided to go to school for interior design in Boston at Wentworth Institute of Technology. And I studied, and in school they always tell you you can do either residential design or commercial design. Little did I know you could sell it. So I went from loving interior design to learning about it to then selling it. And I started at Boston Modern Furniture after school. It was actually my last internship as well, as an A&D sales rep, and I fell in love with the lifestyle. I fell in love with talking to people, because I'm someone who can't sit still and who cannot sit behind a computer all day. So I was like, how can I still be in this realm of design and stay connected with people? So that was the right fit for me. I also, on the side, in the background, was creating a portfolio with a number of boutique marketing clients, interior design clients, and I actually started a podcast in 2020. And that's when my life changed, because I was able to pitch myself in a different light. Obviously, people knew me as an interior designer. With that background, they knew me as a salesperson, but then that podcast was that third level of that personal brand that really helped me stand out. And now I'm at Miller Knoll as an A&D sales rep, so that's a little bit about my journey. So my goal is to take you from here to here. I'm sure we've all felt a little bit overwhelmed before, like we're drowning in deadlines. I know interior designers always talk about that, and the reps are here to help you, of course. But if you're not quite sure how you can show up authentically in a space, or maybe you feel like you have to fit into your corporate identity, then that's totally okay. I want to take you here so that you can feel fulfilled and like you are a boss when you walk into a space, so that you can show up authentically in your own way. So it's all about strategies and tangible takeaways. Even though I'm a creative person, I love facts and statistics, so I'm going to be sharing some of those with you today. And I want to help you build the creative life of your dreams, even while working full-time. And I think it's interesting because a lot of the big firms, they want you to fit into the Gensler, the Perkins and Will profile, which is great. Actually, you should, in a lot of ways, fit into that culture. But I think when you go out on your own and start to explore the world in your own way, build your own side hustle, monetize and collaborate in unique ways that maybe you haven't before, you're enriching yourself so that when you do that personal development, you're able to bring it back to the firm and enrich that culture. So people ask me what a personal brand is. This is my favorite quote by Maya Angelou. It says, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." This is what a personal brand is. I think when people think of brand, they automatically think of websites or business cards or having, a brick and mortar store. That's marketing, that's part of the business, but a personal brand is something, a tactic that you can use in order for you to get into a room and stay there. It's how you make people feel when you're not there. Who knows who this interior designer is? Yes, this is Kelly Wersler, and if you know, that means her personal brand is working. She's very well known in the industry. She actually started out by designing a Venice beach bungalow. And from there, she grew her practice, and her spaces, whether you like them or not, are very unique and eclectic. You look at her space, and a lot of times you can distinctly tell that it is hers. And she's known as a mother, a fashionista, and she's always strewn about in her spaces on Instagram. And I think she's a pretty inspirational designer who has a strong personal brand, as an example. And why is this all important? Well, especially in this world where there's so much noise, there's so many things going on, how are we going to stand out? Consumers are 82% more likely to trust a company when its CEOs or leadership teams maintain active personal brands. This is a study done in 2023. And if you think about the leaders in our industry, the people that you look up to, your role models, your principals, the wonderful ladies who were just sitting here a few moments ago, you probably really resonate with them because they're showing up authentically. They're showing up as an obviously very talented designer to get to where they are today in the industry, but maybe they are a fabulous mother, and that is something that you really look up to because that wants to be you one day. Or maybe they really value your PTO and they don't reach out to you when you're on vacation, and that's something you value because where you came from, maybe it wasn't the case. So in order to really look up to these leaders in a natural way, creating that authenticity and showing up beyond being an interior designer or a leader in the industry with a title is so important to create that impact. So humans connect with humans. People are connected to others versus faceless brands, especially in this day and age. We think about brands like Rare Beauty and Selena Gomez, Kim Kardashian and Skims, Hailey Bieber and Rhode. Whether you like those people or not, the brands are speaking for themselves because they're people on top of them that you either connect or don't really connect with, and that's okay. So 74% of Americans trust established personal brands based on that authenticity. These are really big numbers. 84% of consumers care about employee personal brands within a culture, so it is important to stand out in your own company. And then 80% of recruiters are considering your personal brand getting you to your next career. So you really have to think about this online and in person. So today I'm going to help you break through the noise. On paper, we are all interior designers. We probably all had a similar degree, maybe an art background, wherever you came from, however you got into the room. On paper, we are designers. But how are you going to create strong associations with yourself so that you are an interior designer, but maybe you're someone who is really into photography or really into fashion or someone who also loves traveling. So you start to create these really strong associations for that multifaceted lifestyle that you're living. So So we're going to dive deep. First, it's all about the healing in the soul. I feel like I went through my own personal journey a couple of years ago and diving deep into personal development, because in order to show up authentically and show up real, I really had to understand who I was as a person. So identity requires a certain degree of awareness and entails some type of conscious choice. So first you have to have that awareness and choose. You have to choose to make a difference in your life and really understand who you are. I love values. And we could all say, obviously, we probably value beautiful things. We probably value our friends, our family, travel, whatever it is in your life that you value. It's a core attitude that shapes our thinking and behaviors in our life. And I always use the exercise of money and time. If you don't know what your values are, or you think you do, but you really want to dive into it further, think about how you are spending your money, pull up those receipts, and then also how are you spending your time? Look at your calendar. How much time are you spending with your family? Is this something that you're actually valuing, or you really want to carve out more time for that? So time is our most valuable asset, so you really want to think about how you really want to spend it, and same with your money. Because I always say, where attention goes, energy flows. And then you want to dive into your story. So some people, if you're an introvert, that's totally fine. Back in my day, was so scared. I would never have gotten up in front of so many people in my high school years and beyond that, but I put in the reps and tried to come up with a story and tried to get into rooms by creating authenticity. And the most interesting thing about you is that no one else has lived all of your different experiences. So you want to think about maybe 2 or 3 instances in your life, in your past, that have made you who you are today. For me, it's that I'm adopted from China. I grew up in middle of nowhere, New Hampshire. Then I came to Boston, and I obviously became a very city-oriented person and someone that really loves design and selling. And what is that invisible string that brought you to each part of your life? You want to figure out what that is. And this might take a few rounds of journaling, or really thinking, or talking to your parents, or talking to your really close friends to help you dive into this story. And your story, once you figure it out, is either going to magnetize people to you or deflect people. And the deflection part could be really scary. And at first, I showed up in every single room. I just wanted to be where everyone was and didn't want to feel left out. But when I really understood what I valued and how I wanted to spend my time and who I really wanted to spend it with, then I started showing up in spaces where people were more in my energy field or in the places that I wanted to be eventually. So once you figure out your story, you need to figure out what sets you apart, what's unique about you, what is the value that you bring into spaces, and then what's your pitch from there. Maybe you're an interior designer and you love it, but maybe you're really interested in photography and you really want to start to build that portfolio on the side and create that strong association so you can start to tell that story as well. And then once you've done the work, you can get out there and start doing the BD work, the business development. This term gets thrown around a lot. It's like, oh, I went to a party, I did business development. And that is true, but we got to do the work behind that. We got to do the research, and you got to start to do that follow-up, which we're going to get into next. And I always say business development is playing the long game. It's not a one-night stand. It's strategically creating those collaborations and those connections so that you can get into those spaces and create the places that people want to be. So we're going to dive into this further. Who listens to the Diary of a CEO podcast? I'm such a nerd. I love this podcast. And on the episode with Daniel Priestley, he talks about the 1,500 people. So you want to be on the 1,500 person guest list in someone's life. So if you think of someone in your life who loves dogs, probably someone comes to mind, maybe 2 people. But they are on your 1,500 person guest list because at one time, that's how many people our brain can track at a time. So that's important. Why? Because you want to stay top of mind when it comes to these associations with yourself. Obviously, interior design being one of them, but what are the different levels and layers that you are adding on top of that so that you can start to build a really authentic and meaningful network. And then from there, Dunbar's number. So a lot of us are like, okay, who's gonna bring me my next big client, my next big break, my next boyfriend, my next girlfriend, whatever it is. But a lot of times you think it's your closest family and your friends. But unfortunately, sometimes it's not. And this theory is all about the 150th person in your life is going to bring you the next big opportunity. And for me, my last job, actually this new job, Miller Knoll, was brought to me by that 150th person in the room. And a lot of times, too, it's interesting because you think your friends and your family are going to be so on board with you diving deeper into your side hustle or showing up differently, but sometimes it's not the case. And getting over that hurdle or that grief when it's not the case is hard at first, but it's okay. And understanding that the people on the fifth rung of your network might be the ones that are really showing up for you and are really bringing the new opportunities into your life. And then don't be discouraged, because it takes between 5 and 7 times of meeting someone for that sweet spot of staying top of mind. And you might be like, whoa, that's a lot. I can barely have time for dating on the side, whatever it is. That this is a lot, but it's so nice because nowadays we have so many different mediums. We don't have to send a pigeon letter to our best friend and then wait 3 weeks to get that reply. So figure out what your medium is. And obviously in art, there's painting, there's drawing, but the medium of communication, what is that for you? For me, back in the day, I was a little shy, so it might have been writing a letter or sending a text. But now, for me, it's being in person, because I'm a salesperson. It's my podcast, it's Instagram. Those are my 3 top mediums. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, just choose one. Maybe it's sending a voice note, maybe it's FaceTime, maybe it's Skype or Zoom. But whatever that medium is for you, get really good at it and hone in on that message and that communication style. And let's not overlook the aspect of showing up in person. All of you showed up in person today, which is amazing. And you're feeling the energy of the room. You're creating those genuine connections. You're looking at people face to face, which is so important when it comes to this crazy world of AI and all these things that I don't even know what they are anymore. It's just crazy how much fake news is out there and how many fake text messages and spam messages that we get. So showing up in person creates that authenticity and that real life connection that we are really trying to build when it comes to building these real life relationships. So once you're in the room, which we're all in the room, which I love, you want to become a connector and start to build that trust and build that influence with people so that opportunities come your way, so that you're bringing opportunities to people and becoming that trusted leader in the industry or trusted leader in your friend group. I think the word leader comes up and you think, oh, I have to be a principal or I have to be a senior level designer. But I think being a leader is being a role model, and you don't have to be over the age of 50 or over the age of whatever cap you think of. It really comes down to being that trusted person, because people remember people who helped them when times were tough. Maybe we've all been in those instances where like our life is ending and we're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do next. I've definitely been there myself. Or we're in between jobs and the market's tough right now, so we're like, I don't know who to reach out to. But if you're that person who brings the next opportunity into someone's life, they are going to remember you in a really genuine, meaningful way. So that you can become that trusted partner in people's lives and people really know who they can count on. In sales, I always say that the fortune is in the follow-up. If you don't follow up with people, nothing's ever gonna happen. We've all been on the amazing first date. We're like, oh my God, I found my husband. But then you never hear from them again, or they ghosted you, you ghosted them. Obviously, they're not your husband. Or we've been to that interview where it was magical and you're like, this is my next job. But then you don't hear back from them again, or they don't send you an email, and it's like, oh, so depressing. But if you're that person, nothing's gonna come of it. So you need to hold yourself accountable and be the person to follow up. Maybe it looks something a little bit like this. Maybe you meet someone today next to you or at lunch after this, and then you follow them on LinkedIn, because we love LinkedIn, and then you from there send them an email so you secretly get them on your email list and in your contacts, And then you follow up and you're like, next time I'm in your city, I'm gonna show up and do a little coffee date. You send them a voice text the next day, follow them on Insta, you find out that they love horses and they ride daily, constantly, they're really into it, and you're a photographer, so then you're like, okay, I wanna build my portfolio, let me shoot with you next time I'm in town, and you start to build your portfolio. So you're really having a lot of touch points here. And you're like, that is a lot of work, but it's really nice because following someone on Instagram takes 5 seconds, or sending a voice text takes 1 minute. So a lot of these touch points don't necessarily have to be a 35-hour-long coffee or meeting in person. And then you're finally at the end leading with what you do, your value, and how you can help them and help yourself build your portfolio on the side. And then we take this online. We're all online, and it's so interesting. I always ask, are you a creator or are you a consumer? I doom scroll myself, and sometimes it's for coping reasons, but other times I'm like doom scrolling actually to get influence or inspiration. So think about that and have that conscious moment in your head when you're scrolling, because maybe set a timer for 10 minutes or an hour, whatever it is in your life, because we all are literally addicted to our phones, which Scott Galloway talks about in this study that was done actually pre-COVID in 2018, so I'm pretty sure the numbers have probably doubled at this point. But social media is now our third place. Our third place used to be church, maybe a community club. It used to be, the outdoors, but now we're all just stuck on our phones and we're all just staring here. But it's important to realize people in Gen Z like me, millennials, and older generations too, we're all there spending so much time just staring. So if you're not on social media or online, then you really have to figure out how you want to show up there, because if not, it's a miss. You want to share your story by creating value. So back to that personal development and story piece. What is the value you're creating online? I think I myself have a personal Instagram, and it's probably more a highlight reel, and it's like, oh, look at the fashion, so fun. But it's not necessarily creating value. So I have an Instagram platform for my business, my side hustle, and also LinkedIn is a big one too if you're like, I'm uncomfortable on Instagram. Whatever medium it is for you, that's okay. But it's so important to show up authentically, because that's what resonates. And you're going to do one of three things. You're either going to educate, you're either going to inspire, or you're going to entertain. I think we can all think of that social media account, that influencer that makes us laugh, and then you send it to your best friend constantly. That's actually bringing you value, because it is so hilarious, and you can share that laughter in that moment. I also think of the social media feed kind of like a mosaic. We all love mosaic tile. I think it's coming back. And this is beautiful Italian stuff here. But obviously we're interior designers. So we have the red tile. Maybe that's your feed. And the majority of your posts and your page is interior design. But then on top of that, maybe you're a photographer. So you start to sprinkle in there the white tile and some of your portfolio. But then on top of that, maybe you start to share your cat or your dog because you love your pet, and that's totally okay too. Back to that multifaceted lifestyle, it's okay to show different parts of yourself, what you're comfortable with, so that people can resonate with you, because people maybe love that you're a designer, but they don't really care about your cat, or vice versa. So it's really important to start to showcase those little bits and pieces in a professional way so that people can see who you are as a person. And then LinkedIn has such a powerful organic algorithm, even over Instagram, as we know. So it is important to show up here consistently and authentically so that people can start to resonate with who you are. And then how do you know all of this is working? Well, bigger opportunities start to come your way. Maybe you start to feel like imposter syndrome. I think we've all felt that at one point in our lives. I definitely have. Maybe it is people start asking you questions, not about interior design and like the basic, oh, how's the weather today? Maybe it's that they start to ask you about your photography or the horses that you're riding on the side or whatever it is that makes you you. And also, I feel like a lot of me and my friends were all about manifestation and the vision boards, and I think that is a powerful tool. But maybe the instances in your life you have and you're stepping back and you're like, whoa, things are actually happening in my life that I'm putting on my vision board, on my mood board. So you start to have these moments And then people start to ask you questions. Maybe before it was just the basic, like, oh, interior design stuff, and maybe you're talking about the reps out there, maybe you're talking about the trends, which we all love and we should be doing, but maybe instead it's a deeper conversation about who you are as a person, about the travels that you're doing, what you got out of life, and then it takes you a step further and keeps you top of mind. And then finally, you should have the little cards that we passed out. And basically, it's, I think, about how you can take this to the next level. Because I think there are about probably like 50 people in here that are just like absolutely amazing. And if you don't connect with at least 1 to 3 of them, then this beautiful experience will be left behind at room and board. But I want you to really take this seriously and write down 3 people or follow 3 people on Instagram, whatever you want to do, and follow up with them. If they're across the country, that's totally fine. Obviously, we can connect digitally nowadays, which is great. Start to use templates with your own voice, with your own brand voice, so that you can show up consistently. And for me, in my contacts or in my notes section of my phone, I always have like a little intro message that I send out to people and personalize it, maybe with a link to the podcast or a link to whatever I'm doing, so that you can start to really hone in on your message and start to tweak that so that people connect with you. And then on top of that, if you're an interior designer, I'm in sales, I'm in front of people all day long, but maybe for you, you're like, I don't have the time, or I'm an introvert, I'm kind of scared, I don't want to get in front of people, but make it a point to maybe put on your calendar once a month to connect with someone on the 5th rung of your network. Obviously, we love hanging with our besties and the people who think just like us and dress just like us, but I think it's so important. You never know what's going to come of that conversation that you met with someone, 5 months ago, and then they could potentially bring you your next opportunity or your next best friend or anything in between. So creating that piece of connection and following up constantly will be so important when it comes to creating a beautiful network and a beautiful life full of connections. So if you liked this, feel free to keep in touch on the WhatsApp. You can connect with everyone in the room here. This is my podcast, and then if you really enjoyed the brand psychology and you want to DIY your brand yourself, I created a course with my co-founder, Samantha Newman, who is absolutely fabulous, and we have a little cute discount code here for you too. And it takes you through a workbook step by step so that you can dive into this further and kind of like a journaling exercise, and it's very multimedia because we don't want to keep you too bored. And then thank you so much for having me today, and I hope you got something out of this. I'm happy to connect with you further. I'd love to follow up with all of you afterwards at lunch, and if you have questions or anything like that, please let me know. But thank you to Network Next Gen in Chicago for having me here today. Thank you, guys.
That was a fun one. Okay. Thank you, Lily Grace. That was amazing.